Hey guys, this is John, and I'm playing HappySong in the 15-minute pool on ICC. HappySong is 1674. I'm going to check the stats while I have a second here. Hasn't played too many games. 30 wins, 15 losses in the 15-minute pool. I'm still getting pared down quite a bit in rating, as you can see. I mean, the 15-minute pool ratings are completely different than the other ones because there's just not as many players playing the 15-minute pool compared to like 5, 3, 1-minute pools. So HappySong is a player like in the 5-minute pool or 3-minute pool I would never ever face with this rating. It would be extremely unusual for that to happen. But since the pool's so small here, that's what happens. I have no control over it. So hopefully Mr. HappySong and I get to have a good game, an instructive and interesting game. Looks like we're headed for a Nimzo if he plays bishop b4. No, he plays d5. Okay, so I'm going to play the exchange variation of the Queen's Gambit declined, which is taking on d5. I've said before in videos that this is a line that, in my opinion, has pretty much put knight f6 on the back burner. Not knight f6 on move 1, but knight f6 on move 3, as it would normally happen in this line. I think a lot of top players don't really fully trust that move. Not trust, but fully endorse that move anymore compared to bishop e7 on move 3. And it's specifically because of this line that I'm playing right now, the exchange variation. The plans are very simple for white. There's a minority attack plan and there's a central push plan. And it's a real easy position for white to play overall. c5 right away is very unusual. I don't know about that move. So my first question is his bishop overloaded on e7? Because it's trying to defend both his knight on f6 and also the pawn on c5. So one thing I'm thinking about straight away is either taking on f6 or taking on c5 first. Both of which are tempting. I could also take on f6 and then after bishop takes, like do queen h5. That's a trap that's useful to know. However, after like g6 and then queen takes d5, he could take on d4. I'm kind of leaning towards just playing pawn takes c5. So I think I'll do that. It's possible there's something better. I don't see it off the top of my head, so I'm just going to go with that. We'll see what happens. I assume he'll take it on c5. He plays knight bd7, so no capture. Does that indicate he wants to be able to take with his knight on c5? Probably does. Now, I could support this pawn with b4, but if I play b4, he might start undermining it with a5, and then I can go a3. We could have an exchange of rooks. He might have b6 at the end of that line. Do I care about that? Yeah, it's getting a little annoying because my structure's somewhat falling apart there. B4 would be a very resolute way to play this position, though. It'd be saying, you know, I don't think you're going to have enough compensation for this pawn. I'm going to try to hang on to it. So I do like that move to some extent. Just not sure I'm fully on board with it. B4, A5, A3, A takes B4, A takes B4, rook takes A1, queen takes A1, B6. And the whole thing is like after that b6 undermining move and that variation, if I take on b6, he can take on b4 first before taking the pawn on b6. So what should I do here? Maybe just knight ge2. Yeah, let's just play knight ge2. I could go knight f3 as well, but I think I like knight ge2 a little bit more. If he brings his bishop out to g4, I think it's nice for me that I won't have to worry about a huge pin that I can't break. With the bishop on g4 and the knight on e2, I could always play f3 if I wanted. As of now, I'm just going to castle. I'm happy with the result of the opening because he has an isolated d-pawn. It's probably all right for him. It's probably okay, but I think this is well within permissible expectations from this line for me. So I can take on f6, and if he takes back, I can take on d5 as a nice tactic. Because then if he were to take with the queen, I have bishop h7 check. However, I don't think I'll do that because in that line, bishop takes f6, knight takes d5, He can play bishop takes b2 at the end, which I'm not thrilled about. So I'll just go here. Just retreat the bishop. Long term, I am looking to try to win this pawn. I'm just kind of recognizing that it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take a little while. Queen b6, huh? So queen b6, he's really tempting me to try to win that pawn on d5. So now bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6, knight takes d5. Queen takes b2. Knight takes f6, queen takes f6. That doesn't seem to lead to much. Such a provocative way of playing for him. See some potentially good stuff. So bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6, knight takes d5, queen takes b2. Let's say I go rook b1. Is that anything? Probably not. It's probably not much. I could just defend my b-pawn. You know, like rook b1 or something in this position. It's just kind of lame. It really feels there should be some sort of attacking, like direct attacking way to play this. I'm just not seeing it. b3 would be fine. Maybe I'll just go b3. Yeah. No use thinking for a whole lot. I mean, my position is good. I don't want to really allow queen takes b2, because I just think I have a good chance of winning this pawn outright. I don't think I have to allow him the queen takes b2 resource in addition to that. So that's my thinking there. He can play bishop e6 in this position, but I'll probably play rook c1 at that point, and that gets my rook to a good square. I like the fact that I might have knight f4 later, just attacking the bishop, attacking d5. Seems fine. I don't mind if he takes on d3 with his knight. So knight takes d3, queen takes d3 is fine by me. That just adds my queen as an attacker to d5. Also, since this guy's lower rated, this is one other thing. When I played b3 right here, if I had played bishop takes f6, knight takes d5, that continuation might be fine. But I like giving my lower-rated opponents options to go wrong. I mentioned this even in a series I did on chess.com a long time ago called Sensing the Critical Moment, where I was talking about just mindset strategies and in-game things you can do against certain players. Chess is a game of complete information, of course, so like objectively playing the best move every time is a good policy. I would never argue with that. But oftentimes in the course of a game against certain opponents, you will make decisions that you wouldn't make against other opponents, if that makes sense. So maybe against a GM, I would have chosen that more forcing line, whereas against someone like him, I want to increase the number of ways he can go wrong. And I think if we both have a very wide range of moves we can choose from, he's way more likely to go wrong quicker than I am. So it's hard to beat people just playing forcing lines and continuation. So whenever possible against low-rated players and people you have like a outright skill advantage against, don't be afraid to play flexibly. And if you see a forcing line that you're just not sure about, and you see an equivalent line that looks about the same but is non-forcing, I would usually trend towards the second line, the non-forcing line. Just a generic piece of advice. I think he'll put a rook on c8 or d8 here. I kind of like the idea of going bishop b1 after he does that. I didn't want to play bishop b1 while my rook was on a1 for obvious reasons that would lock in my rook. But now that the rook has come over, I think bishop b1 is a nice move. And it's nice for a couple reasons. Like, one, my queen gets to attack the d5 pawn. Also, I can potentially set up a battery of queen and bishop with queen in front of the bishop. So, like, imagine bishop b1 and queen to c2. I'll be eyeing that h7 square. So, there's that. What else? There's not too many other major points to that move. I mean, rook c1 is just... It's nice to add an attacker down the file, too. If this knight moves, this knight on c5 will have a little bit of pressure against it. He should definitely play a move like rook a c8 or rook fd8 here, I'm pretty sure. I like the fact that this pin is not easy for him to break. Like, he doesn't really want to play g5, that weakens his kingside, and he can't move the knight because the bishop on e7 behind it is hanging. And I think against either rook a c8 or rook fd8, I'll play bishop b1 either way. It'll be nice if I just rapid fire play that move. And then I'll be looking to do some of the plans I was talking about, like maybe queen c2. Maybe also just put a knight on d4, f4, and attack e6 or d5, let's say. Yeah, in fact, like, say he plays rook a c8 in this position. So rook a c8, I'll play bishop b1. I would be threatening to play bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6, knight takes d5. That would finally be a threat. Now, granted, he's probably going to play rook fd8. I just kind of see the rooks coming to c8, d8, no matter what here. They're just like merging there in my head, because those would be two very standard moves. I mean, he's fully developed. He's got all his minor pieces out. He's castled, so his queen is out. So his rooks are connected and ready to come to the center. And c8 and d8 would be just by far the most natural-looking squares. c8 disputes the open c-file, and d8 gets behind his pawn that's weak. So my rook on the king side will have some trouble figuring out what to do. If I could teleport it over to d1, I would, like with my queen on d2 or something, but it's going to take a couple moves at minimum for that to happen. So we'll just see how it plays out. I am building a nice little time advantage now. That could be relevant soon. I wouldn't be taking this long if I were him, because it's impossible to think too hard about this position. Like the last move I played, rook c1, it's not setting anything up. The position hasn't changed much from the previous move. So I don't think he's fully justified in taking this amount of time for this decision. He should just choose one of those moves. And I don't want to make it seem like there aren't other moves that are decent here, but those ones are just so obvious and constructive. He should just choose one and go with it. Like, I would play rook fd8 if I were black. I think that's slightly more constructive than rook a c8, because this d5 pawn is going to need protection under most circumstances. Just going to check his ping time just to make sure he's not lagging. Nope, he's not lagging. I'm really closing in on my required number. Whoops, I just pulled up my history. I didn't mean to like block the board. But I'm closing in on my required number of games before I'm established. Actually, this game will make it 20 15-minute games that I played, so I should start appearing on the best list pretty soon. assuming my rating stays decently high. It's really taking a lot of time with this decision. There's not a whole lot to calculate, per se. I mean, I'm not threatening anything. Even if he were to pass on this move, I couldn't do anything. At least nothing to immediately win material. And he had been playing at a decent clip up till this point. Plays rook f c8. That's a weird move. I cannot figure out why he'd want to use that rook. Because now when I go bishop b1, I will be threatening that bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6, knight takes d5 idea. So he might have to waste a tempo playing rook d8 anyways. Yeah, I don't get why he would use that rook. Maybe he figures that his a rook might be useful on the queen side. Like, does he have ambitions to play a5, a4? I don't know. Anyways, let's go here. I'll play a fast move. Didn't use a whole lot of time on that, but that was my intention, and I don't see any reason to like try to psychoanalyze his intentions with rook f c8. It's not that different from rook a c8. It just seems like the wrong rook. So, okay, so here he's okay. That actually might be a pretty good reply by him. Unless I can take on e4. Am I just going to win a pawn if I do that? Take on e4. He can't take with the knight because he loses the bishop on e7. So if he takes with his d-pawn, then I can take on e4 maybe, or take first on f6 and then take on e4. Yeah, maybe I just stand to win a pawn that way. If I were to take on f6 now, he could take with his knight and he'd still be defending d5. So that's what's going on with that. Yeah, so let's just play this move. I'm not sure in what order I will take the e4 pawn, if at all. But this looks reasonable to me. So do I want to take on c8 first, or do I just want to like play bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6, bishop takes e4 straight away? I don't want to go bishop takes e4 now, because he might have g5 when both of my bishops are under attack. So I don't think I'll do that. I could also play something slower, like, you know, knight d4 or something, and try to win the e-pawn later. But now feels like as good a time as any to take, so he's going to get a little bit of play for the pawn, but it doesn't look sufficient to me. Knight c3 is also interesting. Nah, let's just bank this pawn. I don't want to spend more time on that. He's already under 5 minutes, and I'm going to be about to go up a pawn with very little risk as far as I can tell. So we'll just bank it. He can go rook d8 here, but I have queen c2, rook a c8, queen b1. Maybe he can get into d2 then, but he has some back rank trouble. That might slow him down a bit. My position is very, very solid. There's not too many weaknesses. Like a2 and maybe f2 are weak, along with my back rank, but those are not huge concerns at the moment. He's a ways from exploiting that. Yep, so I'll just go here. I'm expecting rook a c8, and I'll play queen b1, which is forced. Yeah, let's go here. That rook d2 move is the most troubling thing he could do, but I think my defensive resources are sufficient no matter what. So bishop e5, what is he trying to set up with that? some pressure on h2. So I'd love to start trading now. I think I'll probably start doing that. I could start with rook takes c8 and just see which way he recaptures. I think I like that. Yeah, let's do that. Rook takes c8. He'll probably take with the rook, because taking with the bishop seems a little weird. I'm thinking about maybe bishop f5, and he does take with the bishop. He offered me a draw. Yeah, sorry, HappySong, I'm not going to take that. So bishop f5. The only thing I don't like is him getting into d2. So I'm kind of thinking just rook d1 here. There's nothing wrong with rook d1, is there? Nah. Just making sure bishop takes h2 or some random thing like that doesn't work. I have an undefended piece on e2 I have to be somewhat aware of, but he's not able to attack that easily. You can go bishop g4, but on bishop g4 I can always play like bishop f3 if necessary. Okay. Well, let's just trade on d8.
Check.
And after queen takes, I'll play queen c2 or queen d3. I'm not entirely sure yet. Probably queen d3. Just keep trading with him. Yeah. His time decision is driving a lot of these decisions, by the way. Oh, I actually didn't see that move. That was not good of me. Forgot he could do this. I didn't see he could play this, I should say. But queen e1 mate is the threat, and also queen takes a2. So I have to make luft for my king now. He lulled me to sleep because he was playing so fast, and now he's playing... He was playing fast at the beginning, and then he played slow for like that one move. And now he is playing fast again. He offered me another draw. I'm still not going to take it. I'm going to play like g3 maybe, but... yeah, I messed this up. Queen d3 was sloppy. Actually, I'll probably play queen d1. I'll go queen d1. He can take on a2 though, because if I give a check, he moves his king, and if I take his bishop, he can take my knight on e2. So there's that. What about knight c1? Nah. f4. Maybe f4 is okay. Let's go f4. He's really got to hustle at this point. My time is coming down a little bit, but I know I'm going to be playing quickly soon. Queen c2 would just trade a bunch of stuff. How about bishop d5? Queen c2 maybe? Queen c2 would be a very safe move. I'll just do it. I'm not proud that I have to go into an even endgame when I was just up a clear pawn. But actually, I'm probably slightly worse in this endgame because he has the bishop pair. But I'm definitely still going to try to win. I will readily admit that I was just I was playing too much on my opponent's time when I was making some of these decisions. I was choosing like very obvious and pretty lazy moves. Maybe not so much like rook takes c8 and whatnot, but definitely queen d3. That was just a pure lazy move. Okay, I'll bring up my king now. We'll try to bring our king over to assist. You can go b5 and try to create a passed pawn with a4. He's actually playing this very well. I say actually because he's in time pressure, so it's not easy. Yeah, he's just got to whip off b5 or something here. He doesn't have time to think. I would have played this a lot different if there had been increment in this game, because increment always adds that element of, you know, uncertainty about whether the clock or the flag actually means anything. He offered a third draw. He's also offering... He offered an abort. Well, I'm not just going to abort the game now that like we're basically over with it. If it was like move 3 and you wanted to abort the game, that's different. Okay, so can I go into this opposite color bishop position? It's pretty drawish if I do, but he has 12 seconds left. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to play e5. So I'm slightly better in this opposite color bishop position. But other than that, I mean, it is pretty equal. Just thinking what I want to do. Yeah, I'm not even better here, actually, because he can go bishop g1 and start attacking the... This is kind of funny. He offered an abort, a draw, and adjourn. You guys can't see it because it's like right below the screen here. But he offered an abort, a draw, and an adjourn in rapid succession. I'm just trying to be accurate right now. G4? Let's go G4. And then F5. And then king in. He's trying to eliminate all my pawns. But in doing so, he's just going to lose. Lost on time. Okay, let's go back and take a look. I am curious what the engine will think about the c5 move by him. A move that outwardly is not good. So this move right here, c5. Very normal would be c6. But c5, I'm just not sure what to do because I took it. I think taking is probably best. There's a trap. So to understand what I was thinking about after c5, there's a famous trap in this line. If black is to play b6 here, then white can capture on f6. Bishop takes. And now this nice move, queen h5, which is a double attack on h7 with the bishop here participating, and also d5 with the knight participating. So that's like one little trap that comes into play also if he plays c5. But if I go take, take, and now queen h5, he can block the checkmate with g6. And I take on d5, but I don't think it's so good because he can take on d4. Take, and if I take with the pawn, he can even just take with the bishop because his queen protects it. So, I don't know. Let's just see. So c5, I'll check the engine eval. Yeah, it says d takes c5. He did play knight bd7. I played knight ge2. Yeah, I didn't see a way to win material or anything. Even though I was skeptical about c5, I didn't think there was a way I could punish it, per se. And it's a dangerous mentality to assume that just because your opponent has played a move that you're not aware of in a position, that it must be a bad move. This most often comes up in lines that you think you know a lot about. Like, I played a lot of games from the white side of the Queen's Gambit Decline, but I don't recall ever seeing c5 in this position. So it comes up in these situations where you think you know a line, and you're kind of cocky, and you're like, oh, I'm an expert on this variation. And then they play this move that you didn't think was possible, and your immediate thought is, oh, this must be bad. How do I punish it? But you got to be objective and stay open-minded about the move. You have to adopt a scientist sort of mentality, right? Like, I'm not going to draw a conclusion until I've tested the hypothesis, right? Like, maybe his hypothesis about c5 is correct. So I have to do something to test and see whether it's good. So I played knight ge2. And then castle. I think these are all very normal moves. I mentioned this line, bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6, knight takes d5. Would work great if he took, because I have bishop h7, undefended queen. But he doesn't have to take. He can take on b2 instead. And the position's probably just roughly equal. So I didn't want to do that. Now he played queen b6. Yeah, so I thought about playing bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6, knight takes d5. Looks great, right? Fork on the queen and the bishop. But he takes here, and his queen protects f6, so I can't capture and really mess up his pawns or anything. See, the engine is finding a way to, I don't know, go for the initiative, let's say. Knight d4. Interesting. Really likes knight d4. So the point of that is that I'm cutting the connection between his queen and dark square bishop. So I'm threatening to take on f6 with check. That would really mess up his pawns, just compromise his position. And if he takes and I take, he can't play queen takes d4 because of that same trick from earlier, bishop h7 check, winning his queen. He can play knight e6, but the engine seems to think I have a nice initiative, d5. Yeah, this d-pawn becomes a huge factor. That's a clever line. I didn't even remotely consider the move knight d4 here. I was just looking at stuff like rook c1 or rook b1 or take on f6. So I didn't think about that at all. I played b3, just a simple move. Okay, I'm really curious about... So bishop e6, I played rook c1. I'm really curious about this moment. Because he took a lot of time right here. So he has 10:53. Yeah, and he has 4:22 after he played that. It's just an incredible amount of time. Yeah, there's... I mean, as a human, I don't see any reason to prefer rook fc8, so I don't know why he would do that. Even the engine says rook ac8 here. Just do that, or rook fd8's fine. He shouldn't be spending this much time on this move. It's not important enough. So, maybe he had to go do something. I don't know. It's weird. That's... Moving a rook to the center here should take no longer than a minute, like maximum, in this time control. Even in a longer time game, like 6 minutes is kind of too much in that position. 6 plus, it wasn't even, it was like more like 7 minutes. 7.5, if my math is correct. So, yeah, not good. Bishop b1. He did play, after I won the pawn, I thought he played pretty well. Knight cd7, the engine thinks is good. It gives me a very modest advantage in this position. Yeah. I mean, if I had my way, I would probably just continue bringing about pressure on d5. I'd like to connect my rooks soon, so like queen c2 or queen d2. Queen d2 I'm less enthused about because he can play maybe knight e4 if I ever do that, with a discovered attack on the bishop on h4 too. So this seems to just lose a pawn for him. The engine thinks this is fine, the way I played it. But yeah, I got sloppy around here. Did this, I took rook d1. Okay, all that's fine.
Check.
Take. I guess I should play queen c2 here. Yeah, queen c2, much better. Keep an eye on the bishop. Stop his queen from coming down to d2. Yeah. And after king g7, f4 it thinks is a good move. And I'm on my way to trying to convert the position. It's gonna be a long grind converting this position because he has 2 bishops. And the potential for a opposite color bishop endgame is something that will hamper my winning chances here. I mean, if you were to ask me point blank, like whether I think this position is winning for white or not, I would be very hesitant to say it is, because I bet that black can draw this position with good play. It's just a nightmare for him, but yeah, queen d3 was sloppy, and then queen a5. Do I have a way I can get out of this mess? I thought about g3 as the engine is suggesting, but I didn't like bishop h3, wherein his queen e1 threat is renewed. I can't go to g2 anymore. Ah, queen b1. Why didn't I think about queen b1? That defends both a2 and e1. I don't know why that didn't cross my mind. It does allow queen d2, but I guess knight f4. Bishop takes, probably g takes. E takes. This also would be tough to win, I think. I'm up a pawn, but it's doubled. But I could have played queen b1 even here, couldn't I? Queen b1 right now. The computer says queen d8 equal because it's a repetition, but queen d8 is not equal if I just vary with queen c2. So that's something engines do. Like I think they're programmed to recognize a repetition, so that's why it reverts to a 0.00 eval, even though presumably white would deviate because they're up a pawn. Oh, yeah, this was just a sloppy sequence by me. Queen d3, and then missing queen b1. I guess if I go queen b1 here, maybe he can go queen d2. And I have queen c1, attacking the bishop with check if I take it. Okay. Oh, and for the record, I cannot go... Whoops. I cannot do something like... I don't even know what would be a illustrative. I can't go after his bishop, let's say, because queen e1 is a threat. For a second, I thought I could play queen d8 here, but he just takes it. I might have even mentioned that line in the game. Did I honestly think queen d8 was even like possible here? That's ridiculous, but anyways, I went back and yeah, I guess I'm not at all better now. But I can still go queen d8 now, huh? Oh, I think this was the line I referenced. Yeah, and he takes on e2 at the end. This is just like very drawish. Well, I could see why maybe I would have a slight advantage in this endgame. It's equal material and it's opposite color bishops, but arguably white's king might be a little bit safer. I have all these pawns on dark squares, which restrict his dark square bishop and queen. And maybe I have chances to attack f7, like if I can go like here and like win this pawn. His queenside majority isn't mobile yet, so that's why you see the small advantage for white, according to the engine here. It's probably drawn, but maybe white could squeeze something out of that. So I did f4, just trying to get some breathing room. Yeah, and I'm just a little bit worse in this endgame. I thought he should just play for b5. He played bishop d7. Yeah, now it's fine for white. I probably somewhat messed this up even too, because he got that bishop d4 coming into g1 idea going. This is a draw though. Yeah, I could take on g6. It's even if one of us loses a pawn here, it's a draw. And yeah, bishop takes e5 was just an attempt by him to get to some sort of position where I have no pawns, but it's not going to work. So
check.
All right. So win against HappySong, and let's check if I appear on the best list now. Oh, I'm still not. Oh, I am. Nope. Well, I did best 1. I meant to do best 15. Woohoo! I'm finally appearing on the best list because I got my required 20 games. And yeah, I'm 2308 now. All right. I like it. 2308, 4th on the best list. Good stuff. All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that standard game, and I'll be back again tomorrow with another one. And thanks for watching, guys. Talk to you later.